A new book by social psychologist Jonathan Haidt is called The Anxious Generation. In it, he outlines what he calls the great rewiring of children's minds that took place between 2010 and 2015. He refers to the smartphone being introduced to children and teens and, as a result, a great plummet in mental health. And a great one it was. In it, he argues that the smartphone ownership by children has been seriously hindering childhood development and it negatively impacted teenagers. His argument is quite staggering. The author boldly suggests that children should not be allowed a smartphone, one that can access the internet or most apps, until they reach the age of 14. Even then, some access should be restricted. But let me start from the beginning. Haidt notes that the odd way in which human develops as opposed to the rest of the animal kingdom. Human beings with a great growth spurt at the beginning in the toddler years, then a slow period of development until the teenage years, and then another growth spurt. Why do we have this period of slow development right in the middle? This is not the same for any other species in the planet whose maturation is completely linear and quick. Child to adult development in animals can be done with as little as a single year. Why do we lag so far behind? Why the extended period of childhood? Because in evolution, it was created to give us a period of time to learn. Keep in mind that we have a lot more to learn than what animals would have to learn due to our higher intelligence. During that period, Haidt says we learn many important functions. One of them is being able to learn facial expressions, how to cooperate with others, conflict resolution, and basic social skills. All of this, he says, takes place during free play in childhood, which is extremely important. There's some risky activities and should be unsupervised by adults. This is a normal part of the learning process that children go through. Unless, of course, their faces are glued to a phone screen, tablet, or PC. Generation Z has suffered from a deprivation of free play that has been used up as time online instead. Instead of getting out and crawling through that necessary development encounters, they've been stuck on a computer screen and they're not learning any of those skills. Some of them they still come across incidentally, but the vast majority of them, what they're learning or supposed to be learning, is being missed. At the same time, children are getting a double whammy of incorrect content control, what Haidt calls safetyism, that began in the early 1980s when parents started taking concern for possible risks to their children too seriously and to the point of absurdity. He blames most of it on the stranger danger that shook parents during that time, people overly concerned about their child being abducted. This, in my opinion, was also exacerbated by the satanic cult scare that took place during the 1990s. This also helped undermine the social gathering and learning that occurs with childhood. Essentially, adults overprotected children in the real world and underprotected them in the online world, where they exposed to much worse. Why is this significant? Because it has led to an astronomical decrease in mental health for Gen Z starting around 2010 to 2015. Rates of all kinds of mental illness have skyrocketed all across the Anglo world. From the US to Canada to the UK, children are suffering greatly. The emergency room visitation for self-harm has increased dramatically for girls, while increased somewhat for boys. Teenage depression has increased for both sexes, but astronomically for girls. The costs are well documented, from a lack of sufficient sleep because of phone use to just a general lack of socialization that takes place during childhood and teenage years. This is documented elsewhere and is not important for me to get into. Haidt highly recommends that children not be allowed to use social media until the age of 14. Currently, social media companies don't allow anyone under the age of 13 to open an account, but they have no way of verifying the person actually is 13 years of age and thus not old enough to really actually sign a contract for a terms of service. Now, there's much more in this book that I highly recommend everybody check out. If you're interested in social psychology in general, this would be a great book. But in it, he also outlines what it is that we can do to help protect children in the future, what it is that we can do to help the development of children's minds away from the damaging effects of smartphones, tablets, PCs, whatever. He says mainly social media in general, which has been very, very toxic for the minds of children, especially young girls. So I'll leave a link in the description to the book on Amazon in case you decide that you want to see it and you want to check it out. I highly recommend it. It's a very interesting book, and it reveals a lot of very important information. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.